Alright. Didn't expect that it would start already. Okay. All I can say to you hier, da, los, hopp, is, every time I throw her a stick, she just keeps running. She doesn't pay attention to where it lands, and then she's looking at me like, where does it go? So, all I can say to you now is, now I feel better. So I cannot judge. Yeah, that's the one. See, I know where I'm throwing the stick. Each video is a stick. Or a collection of sticks. But if you don't pay attention to what is a stick for you, all I know is now I feel better. Yeah? Because I came here, I retrieved something, my courripe, I did rapé, and so while yesterday I felt like I was angry because I felt like I made a mistake or I screwed up, but it helped me to go here today again, retrieve something, and suddenly I feel better. I mean, that was worth doing this, wasn't it? I mean, you could stay angry at yourself for having done certain things, or having said certain things, but what does that mean ultimately? It means you'll be out of balance. And so the first video of this hike, I decided also to split them apart. One battery, one video, each about 1 hour long. So that one I could call, I didn't plan that beforehand. It just turned out that way. I'm really unbalanced. Because that's the truth. Right? I am really unbalanced. And the way I see it, instead of trapping myself inside a room and direct all that anger at myself, because often when I'm in my room, I literally do not know what to do with myself because I'm so incredibly angry. And anger, if you keep piling up anger and anger and anger, will eventually become blind rage. And you don't know what you're gonna do when you are blinded by rage or with rage. All you're gonna know is you're gonna be angry. And then you need an outlet. And for people who have been following my content for a while, right, I've been having certain experiences in my life. And one of them, I already know how it is to be with a woman and a child. And I know that it won't be like this anymore. Because now I have a certain outlet, which is creativity, but also physical exercise. And often people, they go exercising, but they only focus on the bodily development. So they want to be muscular, so that they feel powerful. Yeah, because they look powerful or sexy or whatever. So they get off on, I'm a really sexy dude. Yeah, but that just makes you unsexy. And so now I feel better. But just before, while I was recording nature and I was sitting there at the trapé, I felt incredibly angry. Then I put out my blanket and I rested for a bit. So I slept, or I didn't really sleep, but I just relaxed. And now that I keep talking again, I can feel anger rising up in me. And maybe it's because I'm walking somewhere I've never walked before. There's a lot of uncertainty, because I can feel hunger, I can feel frustration, and so the other part is, of course, I've trained this kind of stuff. Yeah, I've trained my intuition. Da. Da. Yes, so here today, here, you know, I couldn't have predicted that I would feel like this today. But then I wake up and all I know is I feel angry. But I actually don't know that. I just feel angry. And I'm angry when I play chess, and I'm angry when I sit there and then I look outside and the weather is beautiful, and normally I would have probably waited until 4 o'clock to go outside, but what's the point? You know, I just rendered another video and uploaded another one, so just leave. Go! You know, create your own openings so that you can open up and let it all out. And I let it out in a somewhat constructive way, because when you listen to that first video, which is about an hour long, and you listen to the things that I say, what makes me angry, because I'm actually aware of it to a certain degree, but I also have to keep looking at it, right? But I have to keep looking at my anger so that I can bring it to my attention. And that's why on the way here, yeah, there's a lot of sore spots on my feet. You know, I feel it now already. There's like one part on my left foot of like an open wound. It's like a bit oozy. It's not like pus or anything, but it's just somewhat leaking things. And that could be an emotional wound. So when I'm walking, and that really hurts, and that bothers me, well, I either have to do something about this or accept it. And when I accept the pain, it might go away, because in my right foot, there's also something. There's like a sore spot. And I have the feeling there's nothing in there, at least nothing like, not a splinter, but sometimes there's trapped energy in certain spots of your body. And it may hurt like there is actually something. So, you know, when I realize that, because I've been paying attention, and if I would wear shoes, I probably wouldn't feel it, that there's something that hurts. But I want to expose myself to the pain. And so I walk. And if I realize just walking isn't enough, you know, I cannot walk this pain out, because I think, okay, if it's something more like energetic, you know, this is for instance where, you know, if there's a blockage, this is where acupuncture is for. But maybe you're not so fond of needles. You know, you can do acupressure. Looking for spots in your body that are really painful. Then you take your finger and you just press into them. And then you just wait until the pain gets a little bit less. You know, you don't press into it like you're trying to gouge somebody's eyes out. You take your thumb and then you just apply pressure. Because your thumb is a bit thicker. Yeah? Then you apply pressure to certain spots. You can do that in your neck. You can do that on your feet. You can do that in all kinds of places. But to do that, of course, you need strength. So if you have weak arms and weak hands, you know, acupressure is quite strenuous then. It's gonna exhaust you because you need strength to relieve tension. So my body has to be strong so that my soul can feel comfortable inside. So I go outside, I train my feet, I train my body, and I train my mind, so that when thoughts come, such as go fucker or, you know, tell somebody he's an asshole, I can somehow, I hear them, only I don't have to do that. And so yesterday I was watching that movie, Lord of Flies. It's like I said, a black and white movie. And as I was watching that, I realized, I mean, that seems like, you know, children, they have no real sense of direction. They may have some kind of idea, or maybe fear, but they have no method to deal with it. So if you take a bunch of children and place them somewhere in the forest, they would probably all die. Or they would start, you know, the strongest ones, maybe there would be people who survive. And so they would put up a certain system that gives them stability. So you would have the strongest of them would probably start to be the chief, and then he would give directions. But the chief doesn't know it all. You know, he has a whim on what to do, or what to say, or where to go, but he hasn't figured it all out. And if he proves to be a bad chief because he keeps putting them into stupid situations, he's gonna be replaced. And that's how I see the current state, right? I mean, the state is trying to hold on to its position of power. But if you think about it, I mean, they're really bringing us into complete destruction because all they think about is having more, right? All they're concerned about is their own greed. So there has to be a transition to a different way of life, but that scares them because then they won't be powerful. And so, of course, they have an interest to maintain their position of power through force, which is, from their perspective, of course, understandable. But that's why we as the people, because you also have to understand that the people push all the responsibility onto the chief. So in that scenario, the state is the chief. And we expect the state to keep us safe. And if the state says we're going to wage war or send tanks to other countries so that they can wage war, so at least, you know, they leave us alone, then we're creating that because we want the state to take responsibility for us. Because we're too chicken to do so for ourselves. And so I came to harbor the belief that in order to grow as humans, you know, individuals, but also as the entire collection of humans, or the collective, you know, we need individuals that start walking their own path, Let's start walking into the unknown. And that's fear. And so you need to challenge fear. Because what is this? This is a breeding ground for Christmas trees. These trees are being raised to make money, right? There's not really a lot of life here. It's just like spiky things, and everything else, you know, they're trying to keep out of here. But ultimately, you know, this kind of forest, it's unnatural. Because normally you would have all kinds of other trees growing here. Right? It's like balance. So it's the individuals that make up life. And each individual contributes to life. But if we have no individuals, but only like people who clap and applaud to anything that anybody does, so yeah, they clap at certain things and then they get angry at other things, there's not a lot of growth. And that's why at the moment most humans are a bit like children, running around. They don't want to think about tomorrow too much, so they just try to be in that state of, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I'm happy, yeah, and I'm just gonna watch movies because that's the space where I feel good. But after a while, you know, all the humans that do that are going to grow weaker and weaker and weaker. And you're going to realize, just as this place here, which is surrounded by a fence, that you are surrounded by a fence to keep life out, to keep individualism out. Because you're trying to make everybody look like maybe a pine tree. But if there would only be pine trees, it's like an unbalanced thing. I mean, of course, there's areas where you've got mainly pine trees. And so you could say, yeah, there's an area like the Amazon rainforest. And there you've got a lot of what we call indigenous people. You know, people who live in the forest and connect with it. But then you've also got other areas where you've got, you know, I don't really want to say people like us, because that's a concept. And I don't want to identify with those concepts. Sitz. Sitz. And now she gets really horny. So, bleib. Right, if she sees that thing, she's like, okay, this means excitement. Yeah, so I'm just saying, let her have it. See, I'm trying to give people what they want. If they don't pay attention, I'm gonna run around in circles. Because what people really want, unless they deny it to them, but then they still want it, is freedom. Yeah? What people really want is freedom. But then, how do you live free? By facing fear. And when you face fear, you will eventually become free of fear. And fear is the root of all anger. So there's that movie, I didn't really watch it, so I also don't really have to talk about it. All I can take from it is that they said, you have fear in your heart. Take it out. Do something with it. Deal with it. Because if you don't do that, you're going to end up killing people. Yeah, and that's what states are doing. And you can also kill a person just by trying to push them down. It's like, I'm gonna make you so small that you have no intention of ever standing up to me, because I got the weapons. It's like a very sad way of dealing with other people, because we're all here together. We're all here together in the same boat. Yeah? And I mean, if you keep following people who are afraid to live, that's all you're gonna get. And that's all you're ever gonna be, afraid to live. You know, you're gonna be one of these people, when they were in the Titanic, that bribe other people to secure themselves a space on the safe boat. I probably would rather say, you know what, let them have a space. You know, at least I can die in peace than being trapped on a boat with angry and afraid people. So when I watched that movie, The Lord of Flies, you know, there were like people who were picking on that weak guy called Piggy, and they were picking on him just because he was weak. Well, he was raised to be weak because he had a weak mother, and that mother told him, you have asthma and you need glasses. And so they gave him all those things that made him dependent. Yeah, glasses make you dependent on glasses, because without them you will be afraid because you think you cannot see. So I say, you know, I didn't want that, so I broke my glasses in half and chucked them in the bin. And that means, you know, if my eyes are the way they are, like if my vision is a bit blurry, then at least I know it's blurry, I get used to it, and I have no problem navigating at night in the forest, so I got used to it. And then I hear stories about people that wore glasses and they went swimming in the ocean and there was a storm and they lost their glasses and they drowned. Because they never learned to calm themselves without their glasses, so they're dependent. You know, I don't want to die because I'm afraid not to see. So I have to open my eyes and look at the things that are there to see, which is my anger. So if I say, you know, I go out here and I let it all out, I'm somewhat shouting, well, I know two things, possibly. First thing is, shouting here won't hurt anybody. And uploading that won't hurt anybody because nobody has to listen to this. At the same time, it's not just anger. You know, that's what I mean, it's constructive. You know, you can have criticism that's just trying to destroy someone, and that means, you know, if I upload content and people come and they try to take that away from me, they try to push me down, it's like really mean. Because, I mean, I'm creating content, I'm trying to do something that I like. And they want to destroy me for that. Because they cannot have it, you know. They want to create content, but all they do is consume content. And so all they have left, because they don't believe in themselves, you know, is hating other people because they actually hate themselves. So, right, if you listen to some of my content and you think, oh, that guy's just angry or he doesn't know what he's talking about, well, then you don't know what you're talking about. Why? Because I'm out there doing this. While you're sitting in front of a screen being angry at somebody who's doing things. So, yeah, you can do that all your life. Get angry at everybody that crosses your path. But then anger will eventually destroy or bury everything that was once good in you. And so yeah, drinking coffee, you know, is something that this so-called culture really tries to worship. And you sit around and you feel good drinking a coffee because that gives you stability, but it also keeps you trapped in anger because it makes your body acidic. And then you feel like that, and then you are like that, and then you're toxic because your environment is toxic. You create a toxic environment. And so a toxic environment is an environment in which children cannot play freely. And that's what I want to change. I want to create an environment in which children can play freely. That's important to me. And for that, I first have to become an environment in which children can play freely. An environment that is, at least to a certain degree, free of fear. Because I've created that and I learned to maintain it. So I said, I know how it is to be with a woman, a mother, and a child. And at that time, in that sense, it wasn't my child. I just was present at the child's birth. And I spent 2 months with mother and child, but then I realized I wasn't doing them any favor because I was so unbalanced. I got so angry at the child sometimes for crying because I wanted to help the mother by keeping the child quiet, but the child would just keep crying. And so I realized, you know, much later, of course, after all had been said and done, so I left. Then I had to deal with that, of course. But what I realized was, it's not my job to make that mother happy. You know, that mother has to make herself happy. And you know, if the mother got herself pregnant, it's not my responsibility to make sure she's good. My responsibility is to make sure I'm good. So I'm trying to do that every day. And so there is a certain set of methods that you can apply and use that will make sure that when you have a day where you will be incredibly angry, at least you know a certain set of methods that you can utilize or cling to if there's nothing else to hold on to, because the people in your surroundings probably won't have these methods because nobody ever taught them. And now they are too much incorporated into the already existing system, so they cannot open up to them because they have all these opinions, and because they're really afraid. It's too much fear. They don't know how to deal with it because they've been doing it all their lives. You know, their methods are drinking coffee then. Well, all you can do with that is change it for yourself. So, you know, I felt really exhausted after I did rapé. And then I slept a bit or lie down on the blanket, and that made me feel good. But I also knew I have to go back. So I was only lying down to gather strength so that I would be able to walk back. And so I could have been angry at myself for Sitz, 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 bleib. I could have been angry at myself for all kinds of things now. For pushing away people, for forcing myself to be alone, for spending so much time alone in my room, for creating content for others, where I feel they never give anything back to me. But that will just make me more angry all the time. And I say I don't want to be angry anymore. Or at least I want to understand what I'm angry about and then learn to transform it. And one way of doing that certainly is training patience and learning how to be silent. And that's something very good, because silence builds up power, builds up energy, gives you something to work with. For talking is used by most people as a method to cling to. It's like something that makes them feel safe, because as long as people are talking, they feel good. Yeah, so I started to incorporate silence into my time with other people, so that instead of running away from the things that make them anxious and talk to me all the time, because that means I have to listen, and then they expect me to respond because they want to have an exchange or a conversation, I just maintain silence. And that forces them to feel all their fear and anger and insecurity. So if I'm not a platform for people to throw their anger onto, which is why I turn off comments, because if you don't want to work with your anger, then go somewhere else. Some people, they really want people to mingle, in that comment section, because that binds them to it. Then they can gather together, and then they can, get angry at each other. The people who make these kinds of videos, they don't really care. All they want is people to follow them and to remain followers. I don't want followers in that sense. I want that people do their own shit. And if what I do has the potential to help people, people will start spending more time with my content. But the only people that are going to do that are going to be the people who feel like I want to change something. And so yeah, one reason I leave the house is because I can be alone here. I can feel myself, I can film myself, and I can say things without people trying to listen to what I have to say. At the same time, I'm forcing other people, people who live with me at the moment, to be alone themselves. So they have to deal with that. So they have to start dealing with their own shit. Because I can't do that all my life. That's why I produce content. Because I have a lot to give. And I want to give a lot. But what I had to decide on was, who do I give to and what do I give? How much do I give? So now I say, if I'm all the time worried, for instance, on posting stuff on Medium, because I think, I haven't posted enough because I don't have millions of followers yet, then I might overexert myself as a manifestation of my fear. So I'm trying to give more than I have. Because at the moment, I don't feel like posting more on Medium. The only reason I do stuff on Medium is so that it's there. And that's why I'm also trying to maintain this, that I'm not really bothered about posting videos every day. I post them when I have the time to post them. And that means I won't be really anxious about posting things. Because I say it's not my responsibility. You know, if people want me to post something every day, well, then they didn't get the message, because there's so much stuff on my channel that you can listen to even if there's not a video today. All you do is to go to a certain playlist that speaks to you, or choose, just go to all my videos, and then you just look for one that you feel like, hey, that's it. And maybe you're just going to take one of these 2-hour hikes today, and you know, you don't need to watch the whole thing. You just go to one of these things, and then you just click somewhere where you feel like, hey, that I want to be here right now, right? This is a spot where I feel like that's good. And that's then your choice. And then you listen to it until you get an idea of what to do next. And so now I walk, and part of me thinks, yeah, maybe I could do rapé here again. And then I think, why do I have to? I'm not sure. But I also really feel like I think I could just sit down here for a bit. Yeah, and she thinks, I don't know, something's going on. But that ain't my problem. Aus. That ain't my problem. So yeah. Okay, aus. Aus. That's why I don't really like that thing, because she's too concerned about it. Plus, so play with that instead. So this is the state I'm in at the moment, right? You could say I'm wading through myself. There's a lot of swamp. Yeah, in myself there's a lot of highs and lows. So I'm hiking. And sometimes I just want to sit down and cry or something. But what's that gonna do? And then I sometimes feel sad because I cannot do that. But that's just how it is, because I have to hold myself. I cannot go too deep into that kind of depression. Not always. But that's why I like connecting with myself on a deeper level sometimes. And that means sometimes I have to maybe eat something that helps me to go a bit deeper. But if I don't know how to do that, I don't know what I will face. And so, who is to say why she feels the way she feels? Right? I cannot really tell what a dog feels. The dog cannot express these things. So if she's anxious and she's in the forest, well, she's gonna find stuff to do. Yeah? She's gonna walk around, she's gonna sniff stuff. So at least when I sit here in the forest, I get I get a different impulse, and I also connect with a different version of myself. Because when she's at home, she's got nothing to do. You know, because she sniffed everything already, it's boring. And so now doing rapé again is like, it's like a punch in the face. Because right now I feel vulnerable. And that's of course what psychedelics do also. So if you keep smoking cannabis, you'll be constantly in a very vulnerable space. And that means you're overly sensitive to everything anybody says. That means if I say to you you're an asshole, you're gonna take it personal because you're in a vulnerable state. That means you have to grow stronger. So work out all the stuff that makes you weak, and anger makes you weak. Because if you're blind, you're vulnerable. You see? And that's a tough job. But that's the only way I learned how to deal with feeling depressed, is to keep working until you feel calm again. The problem that I have, that I cannot maintain this calmness all the time. Because then anger rises, and then I think I'm angry at being calm. So I'll have to learn how to channel that, so sitting and meditating is probably a good choice. Doing breath work is probably a good choice. But that also feels terrible. In a moment where you're depressed, breath work is like, because you're gonna feel all the sadness that's trapped in your lungs when you do breath work. And that's why in the beginning breath work feels heavy, because you first have to breathe out all the stuff that's heavy. And when you've done that, you might get to states where you feel so incredibly high. Well, that's a tough thing, because at the moment I'm clinging to doing rapé. I know I could also do breath work, but then a part in me says, no, you cannot. And maybe that's true at the moment. Maybe that's true. But for how long am I going to say that to myself? For how long am I going to cling to doing rapé instead of doing breath work? And then I say, well, until you're done. Until you no longer feel like doing rapé. But there's a kind of a balance, right? It's like about stretching it out. And having times where you use it and then times where you don't use it. So for instance, when I do rapé, now I keep thinking about doing breath work. So that I prepare myself also to do breath work. Because I know how to do it. I've done it already. Only it's hard. Because it's a new method. And now I'm going out every day, I'm filming myself, that's good. Would I do that without the dog? Possibly. When I start feeling so shit again that I feel like I have to go outside, because now going outside becomes a habitual thing. That during the day I start feeling like I feel shit, so I go outside. Yeah, and now she calms down a little, because maybe she realizes, right? I'm feeling a bit low, so now she comes to me to give me something, and that feels nice. I haven't had that in a while. So maybe if you feel really low, somebody feels that, they will come to you. Because I feel like that. I feel really sad. But if I don't allow people to reach out to me, I will keep pushing them away, and then I will keep being angry. You know, I know it's not really a dog I want to connect with, but that's what I have at the moment. And now she just wants... aus. Hop. Komm, los. So in a sense, she doesn't really get the message. So maybe she was just cuddling with me so she could get closer to me to get to the stick. But right now, I don't want to give her the stick. Can't help it that she feels like that. Aus. Hier. Aus. Here. You know, sometimes I just feel low. So people come to me, okay, you want to cuddle? Yeah, that's all I can give you at the moment. Yeah, and so sometimes you're in a relationship and maybe your wife wants sex or your husband. Well, if you don't feel like it, then they first have to make you feel like it. That means they have to take care of you until you feel like bonding with them again. That's how I feel. And often in relationships, somebody wanted to have sex with me, but they didn't want to put in the work to prepare me for having sex. You know, they just wanted to have sex themselves. But if you're not prepared to put in the work to make another person feel like that, then you're just selfish. So sometimes you first have to give to also get something, and then you're getting something, and then you're gonna give it back. So you got life from nature. Aus. Aus. Hier. Aus. Hier. So you got life from nature. And like they say in Avatar, one day you have to give it back. It's only borrowed. So if somebody gives it to you, you don't just keep it. You know, you see that you can also give something back. So if you don't want to do the dishes today and somebody else does it, maybe you can give that person a foot massage the other day. If you feel like it, and if it's your place to do so, you know. You know, I'm not going to give a foot massage to, I don't know, my cousin, because I don't want that. But to my wife, I would give a foot massage. If I feel like she feels low today, and I see what she does for me all the time, well then maybe I should give something back, because that's when I feel good. So now she wants to play with me, maybe she first has to sit here with me a bit. Yeah? And spend me some comfort. Instead of just being a selfish doggy that just wants the goodies. Yeah? So it's a trade-off, you know? It's about communication and exchange. And so when people come to me and they want to talk to me, and then they tell me, oh yeah, I've been reading up on cloves, and I was chewing on them because, yeah, they're anti-inflammatory. And I say, well, why did you read up on cloves? Because I was preaching that to you for a while now, and it took you several months to even read about it. Yeah, and then they come and rub it in my face like it was their idea to do it, but I was the one talking about it. You know, so they try to make themselves look like, you know, they're really super smart or cool. Well, I was the one that suggested it to them. And they can't even give me that. So I remind them sometimes. I remind them and I say, you got that from me. And now you're trying to claim it for yourself. That's just mean. But that's how they are, and that's why I decided, you know, I'm going to drop my content on the internet for people, you know, who want to engage with themselves. Because that's how I want to give it. You know, that's my space. I give things the way I want to give them. You know, if somebody wants to play with me, then I'm going to play the way I want to play with them. If somebody wants to play with me because they want to win, I'm not going to play a lot with them. And that's one reason why playing chess, you know, I will be very careful with whom I'm going to play chess. Simply for the reason that, you know, if somebody's too eager to win and they feel like they need that win, then they also feel like they want me to lose. And what happens if I win? Then they're going to be angry. Maybe I don't want to deal with that, because that destroys the whole fun of the game. And so, yeah, sometimes I feel like, you know, I actually really need a win. And so I'm playing chess, and then I keep losing, and that makes me angry. So maybe I should stop playing chess for a while. But I also want the challenge. So it's not just about to stop playing chess. It's about learning how to play chess, and to be okay also to lose. So you play because you like playing. Yeah? And so it's not always about winning. But if you keep manifesting yourself losing, you know, that's also a dead end, because then you're just going to keep losing. So it's about working yourself out of that mindset that you're a loser. And every time you think you should lose, you ask yourself why. Because maybe that's how your parents were thinking about themselves. So yeah, sometimes you get the stick, sometimes you don't get it. You know, sometimes I'm trying to get the stick by doing rapé, and then I get it, but then I'm greedy and I want it again. But then I realize maybe it's a bit much now. You know, how I engage with chess now. I play it, I lose twice, and then I say, okay, I'm gonna distance myself from that. Because at the moment, it can't make me happy. So I go outside and I spend time in nature, because trees don't judge me. You know, and then I can connect with them, and it's nice. And then I have more to give again. So it's about, you know, getting empty and then filling yourself again. You know? So you sit at home, you meditate, you're trying to empty yourself, but what are you going to fill yourself with? You know, if you want to watch movies still, what kind of movies are you going to watch? Is that movie really going to help you? Is watching Vikings really going to help you? Because there's a lot of violence. You know, and it's all pretense, they're all liars. So instead, the reason I create content like this is because in that sense I am a Viking.